Hi, this is Michael Shevack. Welcome to GODSEARCH. This is podcast number 13. Wait, wait, stop. It's not necessarily unlucky. Not necessarily. All right. It's gotten a bad rap. The number 13's gotten a bad rap. No one really knows where it happened from. Some people think it's the biblical story that Cain killed Abel on the 13th, Friday the 13th. Other people think it was a gigantic massacre of Templar knights. I think it was in the 14th century, I don't know, 1305, something around there. And, some people think it was a bunch of Norse gods that were sitting around at a banquet, and there were 13 of them. And right after was a nightmare, which is a little bit like the Last Supper, where you have Jesus and the 12 other disciples together giving a 13, leading to a crucifixion. But hey, turn that upside down, and 13 becomes an incredibly amazing number. Totally amazing number where you have a complete eradication of sin from humanity. And the 13th person sitting at the Last Supper becomes transfigured into someone who knows not, who's tasted death and has passed by it and has ascended consubstantially to the very being of God. You don't get luckier than that, which reminds me, by the way, because it has to do with what we're doing on this podcast today. Happy Easter to those who celebrate it. Easter is all about transformation. Happy Passover to the Jews out there who have been cracking open matzahs the same way the Christians have been cracking Easter eggs. These are all holidays of transformation. Transformation where you are taking who you are as a natural creature and you are undergoing a metanoia, in the Greek, a complete reconfiguration of who you are as a self. Now, we're going to talk about value priority number 5, which is your full potential. Now, remember, just as a reminder, value priorities are the basic guidelines that are built into the design of life that if you follow them, if you cause and effect and sow and reap exactly according to these kind of things, you will basically be in alignment to the way life works for good. Meaning, how do you sow and reap so that you get good or the experience of God? So the transformation of the individual has to take place also in alignment to the way things are designed to work. So we talked about value priorities, health, peace, freedom, right? Wisdom, we spoke about last time, and without wisdom, we couldn't even begin to approach the subject of the 5th value priority, which is the expression of your full potential. Your full potential. Now, this is an extraordinary value priority because the seeking of the fullest potential that you have on the inside of you, the seeking of the fullest potential in families, in communities, the fullest potential in nations, the fullest potential in the world, in creation for all life on the planet. Well, you could say value priority number 5 is the summation of the entire God search experience. It's the summation because there is nothing about a God search that is not about the release of the full potential that's on the inside of you. Now, notice I'm saying on the inside, and that's what's really amazing. Because when we're dealing with the expression of your full potential as a spiritual virtue, as a spiritual goal, in a sense of it being a goal, we cannot help but have to face the fact that there is a kind of double potential going on. We each of us have the ability to reflect on the inside of ourselves, and we sense when we have emotional discord. We sense if on the inside of us we don't feel a harmony between our mind and our heart and our will. I call it like a a three traffic light. The red, the yellow, and then the green. Our mind is the red, our heart is the yellow, and our will that says go. When the mind and the heart are in sync, and then we finally get a go, those things have to become in alignment. But we've noticed when we go inward that oftentimes they are not. And we sense that there's a lack of peace, and that lack of peace drives us to look for more if we're spiritually awake. If we're not spiritually awake, we treat it like we're wounded animals. And we go, oh, this hurts. Oh, this is bad. Oh, this shouldn't be. And we sit around moaning, I would say kvetching, because a New York Jew that I am, I would say you're kvetching. But the fact is that these things are actually challenges to your sacred self. Another way to say that is it's a challenge to your view on the earth of your actual soul, because these discords point to a direction where you can move yourself in a systematic way towards fulfilling a potential, a spiritual potential that lies within you in a way that you would not even notice was there if you did not have these uncomfortable feelings on the insides, this disgruntledness, this disjoint feelings on the inside. At the same time, we human beings who are material beings as well, we are natural creatures, we are born of carbon and nitrogen and oxygen. We're on the planet. We also experience an outer world, meaning our senses portray this reality to us as an actual material object, which it is. We can just see it, smell it, taste it, and participate in it because we have the great gift of senses. Some religions think that is illusionary. I would say that it is probably illusionary, but that does not mean it is an illusion, meaning worthless. We discussed about that earlier. We have to be very, very careful if we're going to call this world, however illusionary, in that the form we witness is not 100% the only representation that it could take. As we said, blue can be a color, it can also be a frequency. Nonetheless, we have to be very careful when we declare something which has an illusionary nature to it, that it's an illusion or worthless or mere phenomenon. So there are two kinds of potentials that we have to explore when we're talking about the value priority of sowing and reaping, causing and affecting, measure for measure, exploring your full potential. There is your inner development and your outer development. Now, it's very important, if you're going to do this, to know your path. There are some people who are naturally predisposed to being monkish and who are inwardly drawn to the inner world and the inner development of self and the inner emotionality and the inner linkage of yourself to the cosmic order that takes place inwardly. People who delight in exploring some of the spiritual arts, the astral projection, the translocations, the bilocations, and the things like that, that are spiritual arts that are capable of being developed, as all spiritual arts are. There are others, it's a different kind of priority, who are more material, and oftentimes if they're participating in economics and in corporations and government and the world global system that is slowly forming, these people are what religious people or theologians would call historical. We're not as monkish, we're more historical. We all have a little bit of these two paths in us. One is inward, one is outward, one is internal, one is external. Here on God Search, I'm going to emphasize what I know, which is a little bit of both. How do you develop the inner world so that it flourishes, so it is the maximum potential that you can have? And how does this dovetail with the outer world, your relationships, your sense of self, your sense of style? How do you influence people? What are the appearances that you want people to translate into messages about you that will facilitate opening doors to your potential? How do you find love? How do you have families that breed increased spiritual awareness, increased intellectual acumen, increased abilities, and we breed them into our children so that we actually, in a real fleshly way, evolve our full potential as human beings with each new generation. How do we do that? How do we, for instance, release the full potential of our economic system? There is absolutely no reason for poverty and hunger on this planet. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It's that people don't care and they get lost in the system and they forget the incredible spiritual challenge of seeking your full potential. They forget it. Your full potential is, what is your date on a Saturday night? Was it your full potential? Did it reach your expectation? What is the gift that's on the inside of you? You see, every single human being is a kind of individual expression made in the image and likeness of God, a kind of individualization of the universe or God. And I separate the two because we have to discuss scale. It's a very, very complex issue. Are we talking about a universe, a multi-universe? Where is God? Is God a universe of universes? The scale is all very confused. So these words are they're very imprecise, and I really do not like imprecise words. All right. Otherwise, I am not a good teacher. I try to use my words as precisely as possible. But the individualization that is the individual, okay, that is the sacred individual, it's as if we are a condensation, a distillation of the potential that exists in creation. Let's use that word. It's my personal bias, biblical bias. And we are an expression of that potential. We become self-aware of this world. We can direct this world. We can shape this world. We can create supernatural creations through our conceptual abilities that no other creature can do on the same order of existence. We have this astonishing gift. And I believe there's all probability there are tons of other creatures that are even more advanced than we in that area. But the individual has within us like a seed. Have a seed of the entire potentiality that we as souls are formed from, and we as selves can reflect upon and utilize on our earthly journey. It's an astonishing thing. My favorite Hindu philosopher, contemporary, relatively speaking, Sri Aurobindo, who wrote the most astonishing book, a life-changing book for me called Life Divine. My mentor gave it to me, and he said, read it, read it. And I did, and it was just an amazing. Sri Aurobindo talks about the fact that inside us all is an involution of what exists. It's as if it all distills and condenses and takes on a concentration. That's a good word, a concentration through us as agents for its expression. and it is involved in us. And because it is involved in us, that is why it evolves through us. What is involved in us evolves. What's placed in us as our natures, as sacred individuals, as souls, is what is actually the cosmic potential and perhaps the divine potential. It's all an issue of scale, which we'll talk about another time. That potential has been involuted, involved in us, and it is through that the evolution and the evolving of us takes place. Another way to say that is what goes in comes out, but actually more comes out than goes in, because it is not simply, a seed that you plant and it becomes the exact perfect tree. No, there's interactions of the tree with the soil and the sky, and there is an evolutionary cosmic expression of evolution. My apologies again to those people who may have difficulties with the theological issues around evolution. They are real, by the way. Your concerns about Darwinism and evolution from a spiritual point of view are real, and they need to be addressed. I can't do it now. So bear with me and keep tuning into GODSEARCH, and go to yourgodsearch.com and send me some messages if you can't wait until we do a thorough discussion of evolution. What are the theological problems on it, and what are the incredible gifts of it to a coherent understanding of God? Now, your full potential, which is value priority number 5, is it's sacred. Within you is planted this seed that is the cosmic potential that is sealed into your genetic material. And it's more than just a code. It's a code that will lead you to the nature of how you are going to flower. Now, here is the issue. We have our inner world, our inner nature, and we have our outer world. And these are very, very significant things. But the question we have to ask is, how do we live? What is our full potential? Now, virtually everyone lives for their full potential in terms of how much money they can have in order to have comfort and ease. And this is important. We're going to talk about this the next time. It's called prosperity, and it's value priority 6, a very important one. But many, many times we in life get sidetracked by the need to provide money to help wives and children and husbands and children. These days, everyone is working. And we lose the seed of the sublime existence and relationship to God that is our natures. That is our natures, And that special uniqueness that is the seed of our full potential gets lost, it gets buried. The outer experience of life with its material urgencies overwhelms it. Okay? Sometimes, however, the tremendous potential that we have can become dwarfed by becoming too inward. These days, you get a lot of people who are choosing more spiritist paths. They're becoming more inwardly developed, more meditative, and oftentimes you will notice that many of these people are having difficulties financially. They're having difficulties finding permanent homes to live, and their spirituality is dwarfed on a material level. You'll also see certain religions that are more spiritual that do not garner the same material wealth as religions that emphasize the historical or the outer performance of spirituality on a material level. It's important that if we're going to express our full potential, that we know who we are and we choose very carefully to guide ourselves on the correct path so we can express that full potential. I would call it the God search, or the divine potential that is within us. We have to be able to do that. That requires managing ourselves. practically, we have to be aware of ourselves and know if I move into this a little bit too much, I won't be able to do this. We have to be able to, like it's a sailboat. There'll be a wind moving us forward to the expression of our full potential, which it does by its nature. It just does. But we have to work the rudder on the sailboat. We have to make sure that the sailboat is involved in a way that we're consciously directing it along with the winds that are blowing us forward to express our full self. This is really critical. There is the greatest sadness is an individual who has within them a marvelous potential to do something, a marvelous potential to feel something, and they get lost and sidetracked by the the ways of this world, what used to be called the laws of man. They get sidetracked. Please be very careful, especially in this incredibly media dominated opinionocracy, desire dominated world where every single possible desire and thought and experience is placed out there in the media to titillate you and fantasize you and potentially sidetrack you. It's also there to educate you. Now, you don't hear that very often because people like to lambast the media, but it's there to inform you of different potentials and different ways of life. And our whole era right now, excuse me, our whole era right now is kind of deconstructing itself. And that's why we have so many strong movements to put back very rigid lines, because there's a lot of deconstruction and a lot of reconstruction that's going on. Now, when you are going through these changes, you have to kind of keep certain relationships fixed, like your health. You must maintain your health. You must make sure you have some sleep. You also have to have some kind of measure of peace. These are the higher priority values that come first. And then you also have to be awake to what is the potential you're fulfilling. What is going to live beyond you? Alfred Nobel, who created dynamite, trinitrotoluene. Well, I remember that from organic chemistry. How do you like that? Trinitrotoluene, dynamite. Okay. He one day his brother died, and the newspapers discovered that they thought that Alfred Nobel died. So they wrote up the obituary for Alfred Nobel when it is, in fact, Alfred Nobel's brother who died. And Alfred woke up to reading his own obituary, and that's when he realized he did not want to be part of any obituary where he was remembered for the slaughter of 1 million people because he created the greatest explosive at that time. That is how the Nobel Peace Prize was created. So we have to look at our potential. We have to say, what do I stand for? What do I stand for? What is my legacy to myself? Am I here for my own pleasure? That's perfectly good. Pleasure is great. Am I here for the pleasure of other people as well? Or am I here to pass down a legacy beyond my temporal existence through other people, from this generation to the next generation, the next generation? There are different ways to live. If you're more inwardly developed, you're more concerned with the development of self. That's a very important thing. And it has great repercussions for other people because that experience of self can be transmitted. It creates a resonance and a vibration that can be picked up by other people and speed up their growth. That is how you have gurus and enlightened people who can help other people. You also have to have people who say, well, the outer world is important. Let's create an electric car. Whatever you think about Elon Musk, he was an absolute visionary in taking an electric car that was more of a mechanical curiosity and making it a magnificent desirable luxury item which would enable the world to get past their addiction for dangerous fuels. Dangerous fuels. So the exploration of your full potential is really saying to yourself, who am I? Who am I? What do I mean by saying I'm alive? What do I feel when I say I desire? Who do I care about? Who don't I care about? What do I want people to think about me when I'm dead? Do I care? Some people don't care because they just think when they die, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not selling here. But the examination of yourself to determine what is your fullest potential is really the spiritual question. When you're beyond the issue of health and your health is good and you have peace and you have a sense of freedom to begin to direct yourself as a conscious being, and you're beginning to get a sense of knowledge born of freedom where you can balance care and truth together and get a real functional wisdom, you have to take your life in your hands and say, okay, my full potential doesn't belong to me alone. It is the result of a creation that is unfathomably larger than myself. And I do not only represent me in this world. I represent other people. I represent my community, my family, my community, my nation, and everything. You see, the great gift and the great poison of America, great gift and the great poison, is that we are free to explore the full potential that freedom itself, God implanted in us, eggs us forward to create. You know, we burst out of the egg like a chick. You know, we break the matzah in order to release the humility of knowing that we are a creation of something larger. You see, we have to own who we are. We have to own our potential. And the way to do that is to realize we can't own it. We have many, many choices in life, but we do not have the choice to not grow. We're going to grow. We're going to grow through suffering, or we're going to grow through not suffering. We're going to grow willingly, or we're going to grow fighting it, but we're going to be forced because we have been seeded with a cosmic mystery. It's involved in us, and we are forced by the nature of the design of this world to evolve. And even if we say, well, I'm not going to grow, I'm not going to evolve, well, guess what? That in itself is growth. And as we talked about in podcast 2, and that in itself is evolution. Now, the full potential has been the great gift of the American society, that we can grow and we can have greater material success, greater educational triumphs, greater worthy military achievements, the correct use of military, the correct use of political sovereignty, meaning the rights of nations, meaning free will on the order of nations, the full potential of human beings. That's the great gift of the American dream. Its poison, which we are seeing, is philosophically what someone would call solipsism, a nice fancy word, solipsism, S-O-L-I-P, solipsism, okay? Where you are totally absorbed in your own self, totally absorbed in what you feel, and you think that your opinion of you is the right opinion, or that your opinion is the right opinion, and your opinion is the opinion that is the opinion that includes all opinions. And that is an opinion that I opine, I love that word, that I opine as really something which is extremely dangerous, and it is the poison in the American system, where it has become so individualist and the full potential of who we are is so focused on individuality that our infrastructure decays, that we don't take care of the stuff that needs to be taken care of for the group. And we're so, of course, afraid of, socialism and communism that, we focus up on the individuality in order to preserve the great gift of freedom and democracy, but then we lose some of the important necessities that the entire group and the entire social order needs, which we've talked about, healthcare and other things like that. So the full potential of who you are, if you think about it as only who you are, you will miss the spiritual challenge of it. Oh, you'll have a spiritual challenge because you can't escape spirituality. You are on a God search. If you're alive, you're on a God search. So you will just have an unveiling of your spiritual potential that is narrowed. And that is sad. To have your full potential and narrow it, that's a very sad thing. Education, as I said before, is the key. It's the key. But it's not just stuffing you with facts. Education comes from the Latin word educare. Educare, like ducare means like ductility, like you take a wire and stretch it out. To educe, not deduce, all right, but educe, to pull out of the individual the potential that's in the individual. Education means to draw out into the open, draw out into the light, the hidden potential that's in every single person. Find that and bring it out and allow it to flower, to plant it in the correct soil. Now, sometimes we get lost because these days it may not be a university that is where you need to go. These days it could be a garage where you come up with an incredible invention called a personal computer. There are many ways to release potential. I am not going to tell you how to find your potential and what it is that needs to be developed. I will simply say is that potential in you needs to find the correct soil. It is a seed. It needs to be planted. And that correct potential is a spiritual necessity for our culture, our world, our civilization, our species to develop. The full potential of an individual must be educated. It must be drawn out of the individual. The full potential of the human soul is not whether they earn a living or how much money they make. It can include that. There are many people who are talented in that area, and their full potential needs to be released for the benefit economically of us all. But we cannot say that the full potential of everyone is the same or so rigidly templated and so rigidly define it that what we do is basically create a cult of potentiality. We see people the same way. We expect the same things. We do not see the differences and the diversities. And the sadness of not seeing the differences and diversities is that the full potential, the divinity that is in every single person, which is totally, absolutely unique, as we said from the very beginning, there's no such thing as same. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in reality. You can't find two things that are the same. The incredible uniqueness that is every single person, every single soul will get immensely lost. And that's a tragedy. Now look at your life. What are you feeling? What talents do you have that you have not expressed? What do you feel that you're getting lost in, where you can't feel yourself being alive? Where you feel you're getting lost in the machinery and the mechanics of material life? What aren't you achieving? Maybe you simply want a job that has more money and that's more exciting, and that is your full potential to begin that path in that aspect. But the important thing is, on a God search, do not separate this notion of God and make it some kind of woo-woo thing that is disconnected from who you are as a person. Your expression of your full potential is a value priority that must be thought of once you have the first of the four: health, peace, freedom, and wisdom. You must consider the fullness of your potential, not just as a gift to you, but it's a gift to me, to everyone. Who you are is important. I don't care what your station of life is. I don't care whether you were disadvantaged, advantaged, had money, not had money, been educated, not been educated. It makes no difference. The full potential of who you are has within it a germinating core of divinity, the image and likeness of God. And that must find its soil to grow, and good soil for it to grow. Don't stop looking. Don't stop searching. Don't stop pushing. Don't hurt anyone in the process. Don't stop. Don't stop. Relentlessly insist on the order of God that you are worthy. You are a valuable beacon of light that needs to be released so that other people can see it and say, you know, I want to be like that. I want to find my own light. I want to see who I fully am and what the full power of my potential actually is. You see, so seeking your full potential is, oh, we can call it value priority number 5 and trivialize it like that. I hope it's an easy way to wrap your head around it. That's its purpose. But we're talking about something which is deeper and more significant: the uniqueness and power of every individual, that in which the mystery of all life has been seeded, and within which the mystery of life develops in its own unique and glorious way. Glorious way. So please go to yourgodsearch.com, engage a conversation with me. This is important stuff, really important stuff. Open up to your full potential, which is your God search. It is your life. Remember, uncover God, discover God, and rediscover God in you if you have been sidetracked by confusing messages and confusing media and confusing value systems by people all over surrounding you and telling you how you should be so that you can't even hear the impulse of your soul anymore. We don't want to do that. Get back into your God search. Grab the rudder on the sailboat, feel the wind in your sails, and go forth. Go forth. This is Michael Shevack. Thanks again for coming to God Search. I think number 13 is lucky. I think it's a lucky number. Do you? I hope so. Thanks. See you next week. God bless you all. Bye-bye.